Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee Talk. I'm Kellen Ann, and I'm your host. Today's show is sponsored by Blue Sky Video Productions. If you want your show to run as seamlessly as mine, the audio or my part is not seamless, but the Bruce part is seamless, and you need to contact Bruce Himmelblau today. He can help you make your show look amazing. So today's guest is constantly seeked out for online marketing help. He's trained over 40,000 clients. Some of his notable clients are Jeffrey Gitomer, Tom Hopkins, and Sally Hogshead. So it is a great pleasure that I introduce Mr. Joe Soto. Thanks for being here, Joe.
Thanks for having me. For coffee.
Yes, coffee. Cheers.
I said this morning I got a good reason to have a second cup of coffee today.
That's it.
Coffee talk. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. Hey, Ray, how's it going? Okay, so before we get into your marketing company, I want to ask you a question about your wrestling career. How did it feel to win the Bellator Featherweight Championship?
You know, I get mixed up a lot with that when people go searching. Like, you're not really the fighter, are you? Unfortunately, I'm not.
So this
he takes my name. It's like my search for SEO and search engine optimization is with him.
Yes, well, I just thought that was funny, and I thought, I bet this happens to you a lot. And this is a little lesson for people that are going to be StreamYarding to make sure you check your facts. So, but really, what I'd like to talk to you about is maybe a little bit of life before your current career. Okay. And why don't we start with your family? I'd love to hear, and everybody else here would love to hear more about your family.
Okay. Well, I started young. So I was a freshman in college. I had recently lost my father. Mm. I had lost my mother at age 7. So here I was without parental support. And then later in my freshman year, ended up having the news that I was pregnant with my girlfriend. I wasn't pregnant, but and we ended up getting married and having our first son, and I had 2 wonderful boys before I was 21 years old. Wow. And while we're still great friends now, that didn't work. That relationship didn't work out. And my wife, who's by far my soulmate and best friend today, we've gone on and had a few more children. So we have together we've actually had an additional 8. We lost one. Oh. And we have 7 kids in the home now under the age of 16. We've got quite our hands full. It's amazing. So we have, I have my 2 older sons, and then we have in the home ages 16 to 2.
Oh my goodness. That's just amazing.
So I have a big family. I come from a big family, and I have a big family.
That's awesome. So what did you have a career or something like a job that you did before this? And what basically was the impetus that got you where you are today?
So I've had several jobs. I like a lot of people, everything from, starting off working in a grocery store and then a record shop. We called it a record shop even back then. That's dating me, right? We have, I've had all kinds of jobs. So I was a corporate training manager for a credit and collections company. I've been a sales trainer for a telecom company. But those 2 jobs really set me up for realizing that I didn't enjoy working for other people that well. And but was instrumental in setting a foundation for me to build off of. And when I was 27, 28, I really ventured out on my own and started my own sales training company. But yeah, I've had jobs. I was, like everybody else, trying to make a living when I was younger. So
what led you to your passion? What was it? A mentor?
So my real passion is sales. So people think it's marketing because I have a marketing agency, but my real passion is in sales and sales online. So it all transfers over. But in 1998, I ventured out on my own, started my own sales training company, and that was a wake up call, because being an entrepreneur is one thing, but being an entrepreneur who has to do everything is another thing. And I realized there's more to having a business than just selling and getting in front of clients or doing what my passion was, which was sales training. And one of my first mentors was Jeffrey Gittimer. And, I give a lot of credit to a lot of the things I've achieved to the sales lessons and the learnings I got from Jeffrey very early on in my career, from the Sales Bible, the Little Red Book of Selling, and these groundbreaking early books on sales just really set the stage for me. I didn't meet Jeffrey Gittimer until 2011, which is, more than a decade longer than when I had been studying and learning from him almost 15 years prior. So that was my early passion was sales. And the reason is I had an uncle who I went and worked for in my second year of college. And he was kind of a support system, and I was living down in Atlanta, but he said something to me that was really profound. It stuck with me, and it stuck with me forever, which he said, if you learn how to sell, you'll never have to worry about money. And I thought, that's interesting. And I started to go on this personal mission to study selling. How do I understand people better? How do I become a better communicator? How do I understand the psychology behind, what makes people tick? And so I ended up getting a degree in psychology. I ended up studying neurolinguistic programming, NLP. I went all the way with that, got my practitioner, master practitioner, trainer training with the founders of NLP, and then used that as the basis of a lot of my training programs. So I created an expertise in something that would allow me to create sales training programs, which is what I did. And I did it in my jobs, and then I did it for myself out on my own. And then in 2008, that business was taking a hit. People weren't hiring for outside trainers or educators to come in. It was considered more of an expense than anything else. And I had to pivot. This is similar to what we're in now, which is this crazy crisis that we're in. And back in 2008, we were going through a recession, and people just weren't hiring sales trainers and sales training companies. And so one day I had a client that I was helping with online messaging, and I was helping them write their copy for their website. And when you understand sales, you can apply that to copywriting, right? And that's what I was starting to learn how to do. Is I better learn this internet thing, because I can take my sales skills and apply it to online marketing somehow. And during that time, though, a client says to me, "What do you know about social media? I would love to have someone help me with my social media and get us an online presence." This is 2009. At the end of 2009, when nobody was really online, we were just starting to get on Facebook. I think Facebook was only a couple years old at the time, and Twitter and LinkedIn had just emerged. YouTube was still in its it still is in its infancy, but still was very young. And I said, "Yeah, I can help you with that." And I was thinking in my head, "Oh my God, I just signed up for Facebook myself like a few months earlier." So I got home from that trip, and they went from being a kind of a consulting client to being a social media client. And I'm like, okay, I got to go learn about social media. So I went into a bookstore. Not that you want to hear this whole story, but I walked into a Barnes & Noble. I took a clue from the best in business section, which was blogging and LinkedIn and Facebook. And I'm like, I'm going to buy all these books. So I bought like 15 books that day. I'll never forget buying all these stack of books. And I come home and my wife says, "What are you doing?" And I said, I'm going to become a social media expert. I need to figure this stuff out. And I realized that if one client would pay me to manage their social media, maybe more would, but I would have to understand the game a little bit better. And I need to stay one step ahead of them. And that's probably the most profound lesson I can tell your listeners, is that in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. So learning just a little bit more than what the client knows that could actually help them. If you know something, it doesn't have to be a lot of things. If you know something that can help a business incrementally move their needle and get them a little more revenue, get them more of what they want, which in this case was a stronger online presence, then you have a business. You have something you could sell and offer as a service. And that's what we did. So we fast forward, we built a 7-figure agency and had 100 clients in about 30, 40 states, within 12 to 14 months of us launching our business.
That's amazing. Wow. Thank you.
There's a lot of inspirations throughout there, and there's a lot of pieces, but Jeffrey was probably my first sales mentor for sure.
He was mine as well. I mean, I'm not going to date myself and tell you how long it's been since I read his book.
I'm doing it. I'm dating myself.
Let's see, Phil. Sales is my passion too, Joe Soto, and helping other entrepreneurs break through their unlived potential. Yes, that's the key.
I think that also helped me sell digital agency services, Phil, was being able to share with the agency the agency clients that my focus for them was sales. It wasn't just marketing or just getting them online. It was, how do we transfer that into sales? Because marketing should never be an expense, actually. Marketing should be a revenue generator when it's done well. There's just so many bad marketers and bad agencies and bad consultants that I realized all my clients, prospects, anybody I would prospect saw it as an expense. They're like, well, I need to weigh the expense. I'm like, an expense? This is going to generate more revenue for you. We are a revenue generator, and that was our positioning. So sales as a background was the secret sauce to our marketing success as an agency.
Hello, George Henderson. Did Tim have a question, Bruce? And there's Ray Campbell. I've been told that I'm supposed to like say hi to the people more because I get so involved in the interview that I forget to look on the side at the comments. Let's see. Okay, Tim Lord. First, I love the logo in the background. Yes, I know you would. Second, a question for Joe. I know it's early, but how do you like being a mega mind?
Being a mega mind. Anything that can make my head get bigger, I'll just take it. Okay, we're mega minds, right? We'll take it. Kellen has this mega mind mastermind group that she's put together, and I got a first glimpse of that last night, actually. But good to see you here, Tim. Thanks.
Okay. Well, actually, Eric is the main dude here. I'm a follower. So, okay. So a lot of people that are watching today are.
Did he say it was National Coffee Day? Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. Who said
nice.
That? Wes. Thanks, Wes. Let's see. So a lot of people that are watching today are new to the live streams, are haven't done it. They're afraid to do it. Do you have any advice that you can give them to just do it? Because I think a lot of people are in their head is slowing them down, and maybe they don't have the confidence. They think they don't have the equipment, but I'm still on my Mac. So do you have any suggestions for those people?
Yeah, the only reason why there's only a couple reasons why somebody wouldn't go live, to like what you're doing right now, and there's a few. One of the reasons is technical. They don't really know how to do it, so that's easy. I always say all problems can be solved with Mother Google, so you can Google it and find out how to use something like StreamYard, and there's plenty of videos that walk you through how to do that. The technical piece is usually just an excuse for the deeper reasons, which is courage. Mm-hmm. There's an incredible book called The Courage to be Disliked, and it's written by a author who studied Adlerian psychology, individual psychology. Alfred Adler was one of the great psychologists of our time, in the early days, back when Skinner and Freud were being written about. So was Alfred Adler. So, and he wrote, and he really was the basis of a book written by Robert Greene on the law of human nature. And this book, The Courage to be Disliked, I can't pronounce the author's last names. It's a Japanese last name. It's written by a Japanese professor and the book is written as a dialogue between a student and a teacher. So there are actually two authors, but it's a dialogue, and you read it as a conversation, and it teaches you kind of how to get over yourself and how to get past your fears and how to have the courage to put yourself out there and not worry about what other people think or might say about you. Because that's the main reason. And Ken Walls had asked me about what do I think is the main reason people won't go live. And I said, it's the courage. They don't have the courage yet to be disliked. They fear so many different pieces. How will I look? What if my smile doesn't look good? What if my teeth look bad? And all these things. So that's a different version than I have, but that's probably the book. Yeah. The Courage to be Disliked. Can you pronounce the last names?
No.
Exactly. It's powerful.
Kellen Ann.
It's actually one of the most powerful books I've read in the last 12 months.
Okay. I'm definitely putting that on my reading list. Thank you.
So courage, mustering up the courage. And then sometimes so you have two different motivators, right? You have, things that you're moving away from. You don't want to be disliked. You have fears of X, Y, and Z, whatever those fears are. And then the other motivator is moving towards something that is pleasure for you and desire. And people don't have that as richly or as vivid as it needs to be in their mind. And so they need good reasons that would motivate them to want to go live. And so one of those reasons would be if you have any type of home-based business, which I think everybody should have some sort of home-based business for the tax write-offs alone. If you have any type of home-based business, then there's no better way to get exposure than going live on Facebook and social channels, because that's how you get the word out there. And yet people, and so sometimes that's not enough reason. I say, well, hang on a minute. If you were starting a new business tomorrow and it was downtown from where you live, and it was a local coffee shop. Let's take a coffee shop. How many people would you want to know about that business? Everybody. So, and I talked about this on my show with Ken Walls, but it's, you got to be willing to put yourself out there, but you have to have the reasons that are compelling enough for you to do it, which is, do you want to make money? Do you want people to know about your business? But some people repel it. They don't understand why they're not making enough money, but they're repelling it with their own fears.
Oh, I fought this social media thing with all my might. And Jeffrey Gitomer's morning call is what got me where I am today. That and my Megamind group, that's for sure. So I know you have. Wait, let's talk about email lists. Those okay. You said that you told me that people could take away your StreamYard, they could take away your Facebook, they could take away anything, but don't touch your email list.
Yeah, I've got thousands of followers on LinkedIn. 50,000 plus fans on Facebook, YouTube subscribers. You could take away all of it. And for sure, the most powerful, the most important asset anyone can have is their email list. And every once in a while, I get someone who's crazy who says, well, email's dying, or it's dead, or email doesn't work. And I'm like, well, what did you use to log into Facebook? What do you use to log into YouTube? You're still using email addresses to log into all of your social media. It still trumps social media. I heard Jeff Walker, who is the creator of the product launch formula, who's done 8 figures in sales of his product launch formula, just say a week ago that 10-to-1 ratio of email to anything else he uses for creating revenue in his business. So email is not dead. It's your most important asset, your list. And part of the thing, think of it like this. If Facebook goes away tomorrow, who has the list? Who owns the list, the name? Facebook. You don't have control over that. Now, LinkedIn, I'm not sure if you still can do it. You used to be able to export your connections and grab their email addresses. I think there's some specific new rules around that today. YouTube, good luck trying to capture your subscribers. YouTube owns them. So your only real asset that you can build, it's called traffic that you end up owning, which is your email list. Russell Brunson talks about this in the book Traffic Secrets, that there's traffic that you earn, there's traffic that you own, right? And traffic that you pay for. So you could pay for all the traffic you want, you could earn all the traffic that you want, but if you don't end up owning it, having your own list, it doesn't have to be that big. I've had small lists of a couple thousand people that have made tens of thousands of dollars for us. And when I first launched my course, in our first 6 weeks, I think we did $250,000 in sales. And I did that with a list of like 3,000 people. And I didn't spend a whole lot of money on advertising beyond that. So it's not just your list, it's your relationship with your list. Are you keeping them informed? Are you adding value to that list? Are you, versus being, my friend Andrew Locke says, you want to be a welcome guest, not an annoying pest. So how can you be the welcome guest? Is through adding some value. But it's the single most important thing people should focus generating first and foremost over anything else, which is, how do I get people onto my email list? Mm-hmm. That should be your question. And then there's lots of ways to do that. And you have some for yourself. I mean, I even said to you yesterday, you should have, a huge list of people that are anticipating these awesome wow cards that you have.
I'm on that. I have a MailChimp account now.
Good. MailChimp. It's free.
Yeah.
It's free to do this.
Let's take a break here. George Henderson, how do you maintain your expertise in sales, marketing, and NLP when I believe you said your passion is sales?
So it's pretty simple for me. I am a lifelong learner. So and George, that one of my other mentors and friends is Wyatt Woodsmall, who is a pioneer in the field of NLP. He was the first person to mentor Tony Robbins, one of the early people to mentor Tony. Tony mentions him in his book. And Wyatt, I was just at his house a few days ago, and I shared this with Jeffrey Gittimer as well on the phone. I said, I'm at his house, and I kind of went into some new rooms in his home that he walked me through that I hadn't seen before. And it was more and more bookshelves. And second to only Jeffrey have I seen, and I'm talking about Jeffrey has like a Barnes & Noble library. It's enormous. It's the biggest personal professional development library I've ever seen. I think it might be the biggest ever. And he's not sure, but he knows it's pretty close to that. He's got 10,000 plus volumes in his library. And Wyatt was probably the second most I've seen. And I remember thinking, I stumbled upon a shelf of his, and he had a whole shelf of all of Ayn Rand's books, Atlas Shrugged, Fountainhead, and the Art of Selfishness. He had all these, and they were all new, a whole bookshelf. And I said, did Jeffrey inspire you to read and study Ayn Rand? He said, yeah. He said, I really hadn't. He had a lot of books. He goes, I've learned a lot of things, but I really hadn't studied her works. And I said, well, it looks like you have her entire collection. And he goes, yeah. And I said, so you went and bought her entire collection of all the books you could find by and about, because he had autobiographies and then he had biographies. I said, you went and bought her entire collection of every book you could find on Ayn Rand? And he said, yes. And Wyatt is, coming up on 80 years old. And Jeffrey says to me, what that says to me, Joe, is that even at these older ages, you can still be and you should be a lifelong learner. So that's my long answer to George, which is I read daily. I have books that arrive at my house on a weekly basis, sometimes a daily basis, to my wife's disapproval almost on that. She's like, oh my gosh, more books. And I have a library. You've seen my office a little bit here, Kellen. So I dedicate myself to learning. And I also subscribe to some key, social media channels and sites that I can stay up to speed on. I actually use a site called Feedly, and I put those feeds into one app, and I can read that on the phone on the fly. So the key is self-education. And most people aren't willing to do that. They'd rather sit and watch reruns of Friends or watch, Vampire Diaries. I don't know what they're watching on Netflix or all these shows. I mean, we rarely have the TV on in our home. Yesterday, my kids, some of them are being homeschooled right now virtually, as you know, came into my office to pick out new books because I literally have a pile of books next to me just for the kids that they're reading, and they get rewarded if they write a book report up on the books that they have and that they read. So I'm trying to instill that in the kids too.
Oh, that's great. Now there's a two-part to his question. What recommendations do you have for people that are embracing social media without realizing that they are becoming publishers and public figures in the process?
I would say it's everybody's wishes really came true with social media without us really knowing it, which was when we were younger, we're watching TV. If this is for the Gen X and older people, mm-hmm. You're watching TV thinking, wow, these people got on TV, they have their own show, they get in front of potentially millions of people. And now everybody can have their own show. Everybody can be in front of millions of people if they want to be. Now, somebody is watching right now going, wait a minute, Joe, just because I start my own show doesn't mean I can be in front of a million people. The answer is absolutely yes, you can, if you're willing to pay for that, because Facebook has a great advertising platform, which will allow you to pay for and govern your own advertising efforts to get in front of a million people if you want. When I interviewed Wyatt Woodsmall for my show, it was my second episode. We're at almost 150,000 views of that episode. Well, we didn't just stumble upon the views. I gave it a financial boost from the advertising platform on Facebook to push that show out in front of other people who liked or study NLP around the world. And because our topic was on NLP. So, you can, with Jeffrey, I can advertise to people who just like Jeffrey Gittimer's page after he's on my show. I can advertise to people who like sales or like some of Jeffrey's competitors and then we can hijack those audiences. Anybody has this within their fingertips right now. And so now that it's like been placed in people's laps, now the real reasons why they don't do it, it's like their fears come to life. Like, oh my gosh, you mean I could be on a show and that scares the crap out of me. Wait a minute. You wish you could have had that 10 years ago. What we have is incredible. Mm-hmm. So we all have the ability to be online publishers and content producers, and you're already doing it. It's, Gary Vee says, document your life. And that's one way to do it. People are posting on Instagram and stuff right now. And so I just say, if you're going to go live, if you're going to start posting content, what if you did it on purpose, with a purpose that could turn people on to something that you might be able to offer of service and of value to them?
That's great. Thank you. Let's see if I'm going to go through, see if there's any questions real quick. Let's see. Okay. Well, we talked about, tips. Did you want to give some tips while we have a little bit of time? Oh, wait, if you know what you want and why you want what you really want, and stifle the how you can do amazing things.
That's a great quote.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks. Yep. Thanks, Coach. We'll do some tips, and then I think there's some people in the waiting room, and we can have, I have two people backstage. Do you want to do some questions?
Yeah, Diane says, what's NLP? So NLP stands for Neuro-Linguistic Programming. It's actually the personal development technology that Tony Robbins is trained on, and what he teaches in all of his seminars. The Firewalk experience in his Unleash the Power Within weekend came from his experience in NLP. In fact, in his first book, Unlimited Power, all he does is talk about neuro-linguistic programming and NLP. And then he got real smart. People started going and studying NLP with the people who came up with it as a psychological model and as a personal and professional development model, and as a therapeutic model in some cases. And he decided to call it his neuroassociative conditioning. And then in his second book, which was Awaken the Giant Within, he called it neuroassociative conditioning. So people had to come to him to learn that. But it's just a field of a study that studies how people do what they do, and how to model that excellence. And then they deciphered it and they teach skills from it. So, if you've ever heard of, the difference between a visual, auditory, and kinesthetic learner, that came from the study of NLP originally. And then they transferred over to the classroom, and then into communication and sales and everything else. That's the long answer to that.
Thanks for your question, Diane. Kim Hubbs. Joe, how do you manage family, work, and commitments?
Yeah, family and work commitments. That's a great question, Kim. I probably should figure that out, because I don't really know how. We just do it. So I would say there's a couple of things that we do that help us manage it. We have we have kids in right now, even though I live in a state where they've closed everything, like you, Kellen, basically. We still have club volleyball. We still have club cross country, even though the high school cross country got closed. My daughter's playing an independent league of softball. So right now we have softball, volleyball, cross country going on. My sons would normally be playing, my other younger sons would be playing football right now. That's been put off, I think, until the spring. I signed them up for basketball yesterday. That's coming up in November. So yeah, I have a lot of family commitments. And then also just my wife, who has a home business and does extremely well. I'm very proud of what she's created. She's an entrepreneur, and she's kind of taken the reins to help homeschool the kids virtually. And here, when they're learning through a virtual curriculum, some of our kids are being completely homeschooled. Some of them we are still in the public school system, but they're doing the virtual learning. And she's managing all that and doing an amazing job. And that's not easy. So for me, what we do is I do two things. One is I have a block calendar. So I block sections of my calendar out, and I make sure my calendar is not just my professional calendar; it's my personal and professional calendar. And I'm like a Nazi when it comes to my calendar. It's like no one's going to touch it. I always think of the soup Nazi at Seinfeld. I'm like that with my calendar, and I had somebody tell me, they said, "You're the hardest person I know to get a hold of, Joe." And I said, that's by design and it's on purpose, because I'm a protector of my time. So I will block my time out at the beginning of the week in sections, like, personal reading time, all the way to personal content development time, working on course time. I block big sections of my calendar out. I only make myself available for things like this for certain days of the week. And then the other thing is we keep our kids on a routine. So I see a lot of parents that let the kids kind of run their household and let them run them. For us, our kids know our routine. They know right now that I'm doing this show from my home office, and they just know. I said, listen, I'm getting ready to do a show, and they're like, okay. They know that means don't be using the restroom next to we have like 6 restrooms in this house, and one of them is right next to my office. And if I don't tell them, they'll use the restroom right next to my office. So we have to have our children on a routine that they can get behind and they can stick to, and that'll allow us to have control of our time. So block calendars. And there's a book called Work the System, which is really good by Sam Carpenter for systems and working your schedule or being organized in block calendars. And then routine with kids.
Nice. Okay, I think we're going to, oh wait, Kara, any books and classes?
Hey, Kara. Sorry, she's my fellow Iowan. She's my fellow Iowan.
Yeah. Any books and classes you can take on NLP from Joe Wyatt is well worth every dollar. Amazing. That is the truth, Kara. Thank you. Okay, let's bring Alan on. I think he has a question for you. He's waiting. There he is. Hey, Alan.
Thanks, Kellen. Hello, Joe.
Hey, Alan.
Kellen, you were wondering about the names Ichiro Kishimi and Fumitake Koga, the authors of that book.
I love it.
That's how you pronounce the Japanese. So,
I knew you would know.
yeah, Joe, we have a lot in common. I look forward to getting to know you better in the Megamind. You mentioned a lot about books. I like you. I'm a lifelong learner. I need a bigger house because we have 32 6-foot bookshelves in the house. They're full, and the rest of the books are in boxes. And I don't have room for more bookshelves. And my wife is like, 32 in the house is enough. That. What are you've mentioned a few. What are some of the best books and resources? It could be cassette or CD programs, online courses that could help people in the social media realm that you've been talking about. What are some of the best resources off the top of your head?
So I have a saying that I stick to that I've been saying since I started my social media agency in 2010. And that is that people skills trump social media skills. So while people want me to rattle off, digital marketing or social media books, the truth is what's been the governing factor behind my success in social media has been my understanding of people. So, the foundational books that have had the most impact on me are books like, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. How to Stop Worrying and Start Living by Dale Carnegie, I think is an even better book. The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino is one of my top 5 favorite books of all time. It's a small book that has a profound impact. And, it's funny because I read all of Og Mandino's books when I was in my 20s. And when I started my agency, they became one of my clients. It's interesting how some of that comes around to you. And the Og Mandino Institute in companies, which is ran by Dave Blanchard now. So let's start with that. So there's some foundational books on just honing your people skills. Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins was an important book for me. It was one of the first books I'd read. In fact, it was the first book I think I really ever read. And it started my journey to wanting to learn more. And then, Jeffrey's books go without saying. I think everyone should own them. Harvey McKay's book, Swim with the Sharks Without Being Eaten Alive, was a book I had read in my 20s, also had a profound impact on me. He became a client later on in life. He became a client because Jeffrey introduced me to him. And I'm like, calls me up one day, says, do you know Harvey McKay? I said, are you kidding me? I have 4 of his books on my bookshelf right now. And he's like, well, he's going to be in Des Moines tomorrow and he needs to talk to you. I'm like, I'm there. Now, beyond that, there are some books. So Gary Vaynerchuk's best book for digital strategy is Jab, Jab, Right Hook. And I think anyone who wants to understand social media at its core for content and advertising and marketing should read Jab, Jab, Right Hook by Gary Vee. He actually talks about how that is his least best-selling book, but I think it was one of his least best-selling books, but one of his best books to help him get clients, because his clients read that and said, this is the strategy that was missing in our business and we need your help to do it. And he really launched his VaynerMedia with that, using that book. So that is an important book that still stands the test of time today, even though now it's like 3 or 4 years old. So I think everybody should have that book. And then somebody was asking me a couple of years ago when I was doing my live event, they said, how do you get good at advertising? And on Facebook and on YouTube and all this. And we've done Facebook advertising for hundreds of clients. And I said, it's easy. You study advertising. I said, most people try to launch Facebook ads. They try to take on these advertising platforms without ever really understanding advertising as a psychology and as a, as a medium. So, looking to my left here, I've got my favorite advertising books are all on my shelf, but I love all of the books by Roy Williams, including The Wizard of Ads, which is not just a book about advertising, but it's a book about the psychology behind what moves people and motivates them. So any book by Roy Williams, which is his three main books are Wizard of Ads. It's the Wizard of Ads series, The Secret Formula of Ads, and then The Magical Worlds. And then anything by Ogilvy, to give you that basis. Because when you understand that, it makes writing copy, it makes coming up with creative simple for people in their content and marketing and social media in general, because not all advertising is paid. By doing this, we're essentially all being advertised right now. Mm-hmm. So how do you, what are the principles behind what makes good promotions work, what makes good advertising work, what makes all this work? That stuff's available to us, but I can't believe how many people want to take a shortcut. They just want the silver bullet. Like they just pop out of nowhere and they want to, when I started studying social media and bought all those books, I realized in short order that the books I've read on sales, the books I've read on human communication, the books by Robert Greene, like, the 48 Laws of Power, these books were really the instrumental books that made me, that gave me success in my business, because I understood what people wanted, how people would respond, and how to position that accordingly. So that would be my long answer, man.
No, I appreciate that, Dylan. A lot of those books are sitting over here on my shelves too.
I have on my YouTube channel, I have a video on my top 10, I think, favorite advertising books, my top copywriting books, my top sales books, and my top mindset books were the ones I wrote. I did that video just last week and published it. So those are, if you just go to my channel and search the word favorite books or best books, or you'll see it, those videos will pop up somewhere on my channel.
Great.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Alan. Do you have any other questions?
Why don't we let Randy get on here, and I don't want to monopolize his time. So I think he had a question too.
Okay. Thanks, Alan.
Thanks, Alan.
Hey, Randy.
Hey, Kellen, Joe, how are you?
Hey, Randy. Randy, you're the road warrior today. Where are you headed?
Well, actually, I stopped and saw two customers this morning. Coffee and donuts twice. Only had 2 donuts, which are 2 more than I should. But there's a rule with customers. Old road warrior stuff. You don't take coffee and donuts to a customer and not eat a donut with them, right? That's just wrong. But no, actually, now I'm in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Joe, gonna meet up as soon as I get done talking with my my marketing assistant, and we're gonna map out the balance of 2020 and the start of 2021 together. So
awesome.
But thanks. I just wanted to Alan, thanks for the time, buddy. I'm gonna run here in a minute. But Kellen, great show again as always. Thanks for letting me hop on. Joe, welcome to Megaminds. It's one of the best things I've done. I tell people it's probably the one great thing. 2 great things came out of COVID for me, Joe. The whole Megamind people that I got to meet, and secondly, along with what you talk about, which I'm really interested in learning from you, is how to transition myself from the old road warrior that I've been forever into sort of a hybrid version of that. And I learn lessons every day. And it's more of a statement than I just like your comments more than anything. It's really not a question, but the thing I'm finding is the force multiplier aspect of it.
Uh-oh. Oh, there he's back. Oh.
In the old world, I might get on a flight day, I might get a call or 2 in, right? Now I can set my home office, and between videos and postings and emails and all the things we do, I might touch 30 people, right? It's amazing the mindset. Once I flip that switch, and for an old road warrior like me, because I'm not particularly young and not particularly old, I don't know where I'm at. I feel like I'm 27, but to flip that switch, right? Was hard until I flipped it. and now it's like I can't get enough of this. If that makes sense, it's like addicting almost. The amount of extra stuff you can do in an hour a day a week. It's amazing. So that was more of a comment than a question, but any feedback on that, Joe? I'd love to hear your thoughts on the force multiplier effect of doing this, if that makes sense.
Well, here the good news is somebody with your type of experience and background, Randy, and you're not alone. There's a lot of people that are, pivoting, making that transition, shifting how they do their business. You have that base of skill sets that sometimes the switch is, oh, I can just use the same skill sets and do it virtually, or I can do it online, or I can do it on my sales page, or I can do it in my videos that I start putting out on YouTube and on my channel, because what's worked for you, the people skills that have worked for you, the relationship skills, the human relation skill that you have kind of mastered over the course of your career and in your job, and just as maybe as a person in general, is exactly what is needed to be successful in the virtual shift. People just forget that. They think there's some other magical skills they have to learn.
Right.
I'm like, no. What you have to learn is to delegate the things that you're not good at, so you can execute on delivering your message and being there for people. And Kellen's a great example of that, because Kellen is, she's not that technically savvy. This is her saying this to me yesterday, but I'm like admiring how she still takes the bull by the horns and says, what I don't know, I'll find somebody who can help, and I'll delegate this out. I'll make those relationships work so I can still have the medium where I can be me and be the effective me, and not worry about. Too many people try to work on their weaknesses versus, emphasizing their strengths. So when that switch flips, the multiplier comes into effect, because you can now, like on the StreamYard, you can be in a lot more places at once. So on my show, and I'm not sure how many places we're on here, but on my show, we're on in 2 different Facebook groups. I'm in my Facebook page. I'm on my personal Facebook profile. I'm on Twitter, and I'm on LinkedIn and YouTube. It's like 6 different channels all at the same time. Like, where else could you ever have that type of exponential impact with one broadcast? So it's not like you're just getting on NBC. You're on all the channels, and then it's up to you to do one or 2 things: to promote that successfully, or pay, or either the best you can without paying. You could also pay to promote all that successfully, or OPM, you can use other people's money. This is the real great multiplier, by the way, which is find sponsors, find advertisers who want to be part of your platform, and by funding it, you now have a revenue coming in that can self-fund the promotion. Because some people go, I don't have the money to promote my show. I'll say, somebody else has your money to promote your show, who would love to be the main sponsor of it, if you can assure them you'll get them, say, 100,000 views, and they'll pay a certain amount of money. Actually, it's $1 to $2 cost, CPM on that, in order to be, paying for the broadcast of your show. So where there's a will, there's a way. And to me, the great multiplier is thinking big and say, how big can this go? And what am I missing right now that can put me in front of more places? And you're seeing it. Some of our clients for our agency business, one of our newer clients is a B2B, and they said, we're saving so much money by not sending our salespeople on the road, on airplanes, at conferences. They're no longer going to trade shows, which is how they normally business develop. They normally generate their business through these networking, through these trade shows and booths and everything else. They said, so now we have all this money freed up that we could apply to online marketing and online lead generation. And so that's a great opportunity for us too. I know we lost Randy there.
Yeah, well. Okay, Ray says that Randy is
seasoned. Yeah.
And there's Diane. So we're coming to the end, and I don't want it to end. Okay, wait, here, feeding off Randy's comment. How do you guide your clients that are reticent or reluctant to change?
So you have to figure out how they're motivated, and learn how to emphasize that. So if a client is reluctant to change, and they tend to have a pattern of wanting everything to stay the same as it's always been, then I need to find out if how they're motivated. Are they motivated more by fear? Are they motivated more by something they desire or something they want to achieve. And you can usually ask them, well, if it's 5 years from now, what would you hope that would have happened between now and then to be happy with where your business is at? And they'll usually say, well, we avoided this, or we didn't have this happen, or we avoided, bankruptcy, and it's moving away stuff. Or they might emphasize things they're moving towards, which can be, well, we've been able to grow 10% a year, or whatever it might be. And then once you have that, you have to be able to decipher and have them answer, what are the consequences if they don't make changes? And that's for the moving away from. So what are some consequences you could be facing if you're not willing to make the changes? And for people that are more moving towards, they're more goal-oriented or achievement-oriented, then I might have to say, okay, how do you think that's going to happen if you don't make a move now? So in other words, how soon do you want to be making a change that can help you get to where you're going? Because if things stay the same, admittedly, you're saying it's not going to get better. So it's painting that future for them and letting them see that they're either going to miss that mark, okay, if they don't make the changes, or they're gonna hit it if they do. So again, most people, if the ones who don't like to change, they like sameness and they're stuck in the present. So you have to move them out of the present into what the future is going to look like, bad or good, and find out which one motivates them more. Mm-hmm. Consequence or achievement.
Nice. Let's see, Tim Lord, with 7 kids and being a lifelong learner, do you find you are listening to more audiobooks than actually reading? I find that is where I am at right now.
Yeah, so it's both for me. I listen to audiobooks anytime I'm in the car, particularly by myself, driving anywhere. I'm always listening to audiobooks. Audible is one of my favorite apps, period. So I do that. And I do sometimes read a book and I really want to hear the author's inflection of voice on it. So it's a great question. But the answer is I place a lot of value also in the time I spend reading. It's quiet time for me. It's meditation time almost for me to do that. And so taking a break to just read a chapter out of a book for me is very therapeutic. And I put such a high value on that part of me time that I can grab during the day, which is why I'll often put it into the calendar, is meaningful to me. So I don't look at it as a weight of time. I weigh it based on importance and priority and what it actually can do for me. So, and I still love, and I have a Kindle as well, but I still love being able to read books and being able to, to underline them and earmark them and do all these things. So I still like that tangibility of it. But it's more because of to me, it's therapeutic. And I also, by the way, this is something that I think Jim Quick or somebody else advised, that if you really want to get good at retaining information, play the audio while you're reading the book. And you could put it at like 2 times speed, so you actually read the book faster and hear it and you retain it better. It was a really good tip I got recently on retaining information.
Excellent. Let's see, Kara. Moving away from / towards is a tool I have learned to help me, and I have heard Joe talk about it a couple of times in this 45 minutes. Very powerful to understand what motivates people. Yes, that is. Let's see, Phil. Absolutely. We can't be of massive service to ourselves or others if we don't understand what the motivators are. True. Thank you, Coach Phil. So I guess I would like to, I don't want to end this because I could probably think of 500 more questions, but I don't know if I've gone over your block of time for this.
I blocked the hour, so.
Good. Why don't you talk a little bit how people can contact you, the best places, or you can shamelessly promote yourself right now.
It's pretty easy. You can Google me, and just whoever's not the wrestler is probably me. But joesoto.net, joesototraining.com. My Instagram handle is Joseph Soto. Find me on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. I'm not as active and dialoguing on Twitter as I used to be, but I'm there. I'm posting, consistently. But you can Google and find me. If you are somebody who's looking for creative ways to sell or get clients, or just want some good marketing and sales strategies, you can go to my YouTube channel as well. And it's just YouTube.com/Joe Soto.
Okay. Well, thank you. So oh wait, we have a trivia question.
Trivia. Yes.
Okay. So to answer this question, you need to send it to my Facebook Messenger. The first person that gets it right will win. It's the new course that you're putting together.
I have a new short program. It's a 6-module program called Marketing Restart. And this is it's an in-depth 6-lesson program on how to really reset, recharge, restart your marketing from scratch. So the 6 pieces helps you master your target market, really identifying who your target should be and how to target them. And then mastering your message. And I talk about the one message, like how do you tighten your messaging up into one really profound and impactful sentence. And then number 3, what media will you use to attract your audience, which is traffic. And then I have what's your lead system? That's module 4, creating your lead system. And how do you generate leads? How do you build your list? How do you create and generate that traffic that you own that we talked about? And then I have and it's not for sale, by the way, this program. And then I have my follow-up system and my conversion system. How do I convert more of that traffic and more conversion tips? But this is a program I'm not selling right now. I'm considering bundling it and packaging it with some other programs that I have. I created it exclusively for a platform that it's going to be on here in the next month or 2 that I won't mention right now. But this person will get access to that. So they'll have something that almost nobody else has. Actually, the only people that have seen this is people in my mastermind group. And my mastermind group is a yearly group that Jeffrey and Gittimer and I run, and we meet 3 times a year, and we meet monthly as well. So they're the only ones that have seen this.
Nice. Well, that's a treat. Okay, so the question is, of Joe's 5 children. The 5 children are named after cities.
5 of my 9 children are named after cities.
Right. And what is one of the cities that they are named after? Okay.
So it's the first person to answer one of the, without Googling, without YouTubing me or whatever, or Facebook messaging me and finding out. Okay. Let's find out who. So the first person to say the name of one of my kids that's named after a city. Is that the contest?
That's it. And they have to send it to my Facebook messenger.
Okay. So they have to Facebook message you.
Got it. And it's all timestamped that way, and I can see who was first. So
perfect.
It's fair. So I want to thank you for being on my show today. You are platinum in my book. You're not even gold, you're platinum.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to be sending you some of Kellen's cards that wow.
Yes.
And I will be getting the mail today.
Awesome.
Again, thank you again. And I hope everybody has a great day. Let's see. My guest next week is Melanie Spring. So we're going to get a lot of excitement and enthusiasm on that show, let me tell you. So have a great day, and I'll see you next week.
Thanks for having me, Kellen.